You close the app. You feel worse than you did 5 minutes ago. Nothing bad happened. Nobody said anything cruel. You just scrolled past a stranger's vacation, a stranger's body, a stranger's promotion, someone you will never meet, living a life you never asked to measure yourself against. And somehow, it stung anyway. This isn't vanity. This isn't insecurity. The real answer is far stranger. Your brain is running a measurement system built for a world with roughly 150 people in it, and you just fed it several billion. Every animal that lives in groups needs some way to know where it stands. Not morally. Practically. Am I strong enough to challenge for a better spot in this hierarchy? Am I attractive enough to compete for a mate? Am I contributing enough to be worth keeping around? These aren't abstract questions. For most of evolutionary history, getting the answer wrong could mean losing access to food, protection, or a partner. So evolution built you a constant, mostly unconscious habit of checking. Where do I stand, compared to the people around me? A psychologist named Leon Festinger gave this a name in 1954. He called it social comparison theory, and it was built on a deceptively simple observation. People don't evaluate themselves in a vacuum. They evaluate themselves against others, and they do it automatically, constantly, often without realizing they're doing it at all. Festinger noticed something else too. People don't compare themselves to just anyone. They compare themselves most intensely to people who feel similar to them, people close in age, background, or circumstance, because those are the comparisons that actually carry useful information about where you stand. Here's the part that matters. For nearly all of human history, the people around you meant a small, fixed group. Your band, your village, your extended family. 50 people. 150 at most. That was the entire comparison pool your brain ever had to work with. If you were reasonably skilled, reasonably attractive, reasonably respected within that small circle, your brain could register that as genuinely good news. You were doing fine. You belonged. There was no larger context to make you feel otherwise, because no larger context existed. Now think about what you're comparing yourself to today. Every time you open a screen, your brain runs the exact same ancient program, where do I stand? But instead of measuring you against 150 familiar faces, it's measuring you against a curated highlight reel pulled from millions, sometimes billions, of strangers. Not your village. Not people who share your resources, your context, or your struggles. Total strangers, algorithmically selected and shown to you specifically because they are impressive, attractive, or enviable. That's not an accident. That's the entire design. Your brain has no idea the sample size has changed. It doesn't know that you're comparing yourself to the most photogenic vacation out of 10,000 competing photos, or the most flattering angle out of 200 attempts, or the highlight of someone's best year stitched together and shown on repeat. As far as your ancient comparison system is concerned, this is just data about your tribe. And according to that data, you are somehow losing to everyone in it, all the time. This is where a researcher named Melissa Hunt comes in. At the University of Pennsylvania, she ran a study asking a deceptively simple question: does limiting social media use actually improve how people feel? Her team had participants either continue using platforms as usual or restrict their use to a set amount of time each day. The results were notable. Participants who limited their use showed measurable reductions in loneliness and depression symptoms compared to those who kept scrolling freely. Something as simple as reducing exposure to other people's curated lives measurably changed how people felt about their own. This makes sense once you understand what your brain is actually doing every time you scroll. It isn't idly consuming content. It's running thousands of tiny, mostly unconscious comparisons, sizing up your body against filtered bodies, your career against carefully worded career updates, your relationship against someone else's anniversary post. Each comparison barely registers as a distinct thought, but they add up, silently, into a running tally your ancestors never had to calculate, because their tally never had more than 150 entries. There's an evolutionary psychologist named David Buss whose research adds another layer here. Buss has spent decades studying status and mate competition, and one consistent finding across his work is that humans are exquisitely sensitive to relative standing, not absolute standing. It's not enough to simply be doing okay. Your brain wants to know if you're doing okay relative to the people it considers your peer group. And that single mechanism, so useful in a village of 150, becomes a quiet engine of dissatisfaction when your peer group technically includes the most successful, most attractive, most exceptional people on the entire planet. Think about what that means. You are not just competing with your actual neighbors, co-workers, or friends anymore. Somewhere in your mind, without your permission, you have been enrolled in a global competition against the most curated version of nearly everyone alive. No one in human history was ever built to withstand a comparison pool that large. Not because you're weak. Because no version of a human brain, at any point in its 200,000-year development, was ever asked to hold that much data. This also explains a strange detail many people notice but rarely question: why comparing yourself to a close friend rarely stings the same way comparing yourself to an online stranger does. It circles back to Festinger's original insight. Comparisons feel most threatening when they involve people who seem similar enough to be a fair measuring stick, but different enough to seem slightly ahead. A stranger online is perfect for this. Close enough in appearance and lifestyle to feel like a valid comparison, distant enough that you'll never see the parts of their life that don't make the cut for posting. So what do you do with a system this easily overwhelmed? You can't switch off social comparison. It's not a bad habit, it's core wiring, present in every social species that has ever needed to know its place in a group. But you can change what data you're feeding it. Spending real time with real people, people whose entire lives you actually witness, unfiltered mistakes and all, gives your ancient comparison engine something it can actually use accurately. It recalibrates the sample size back down towards something your brain was built to handle. And there's something worth sitting with here. The stranger whose vacation made you feel behind has never seen your face, doesn't know your name, and will forget this moment before their next post loads. You spent real emotional energy losing a competition that, from their side, never even happened. You close the app again. This time, notice the tally running in the background, the quiet counting your brain has been doing without asking your permission. It isn't broken. It's just counting the wrong village, one with billions of residents instead of 150, running an ancient measurement system in a world it was never built to measure.